Hello and welcome to Model Train Fun. Today we're going to experiment with controls for when we are automating the layout with the Central Station tree. What I would like to do is be able to make a run event so we can start the entire layout and the automation of the entire layout at the same time. I would like to be able to pause, and I would like to be able to stop the automation as well in a fashion such that I can restart it again with my run events. In addition to that, I will look at what can we do in order to reset the automation after something potentially has gone wrong and we didn't succeed in stopping it, for example. Remember, this is the second video in the CS3 layout automation experimentation series. The first video actually describes how to set up the layout, where all the context tracks and so on are. So that can be a good video to look at before this one. So I'll put a link in the description below. I will also in the description below put a link to the basic event tutorial video on how to make the events as well, in case you kind of get lost with the explanations today. So in the video today, I'm really only going to show what the finished events are going to look at, like not how to drag and drop and so on. So enjoy the video. Let's look at what controls are built into the central station for the automation, or rather for the events. So if we go to the events, then there's actually a control button over here. If we look at this one, there is three different types of controls. So the first one, block events, actually what it does is it makes sure that the new events are not started. However, events that are already running or recursive events or sub-events will still continue running. I do not find this very useful. Because in essence, it doesn't really stop what's going on my layout. It prevents more from happening. However, as you saw in the last episode for the train movement, I like to make a loop so something happens continuously. It will not stop anything from happening using this one here. Then we got the stop events. Actually, what that one does is when you hit stop events, it will actually pause all events, and then you can hit continue afterwards. However, to me, it doesn't really help me much because when it stops the event, it doesn't stop the trains. So the events will stop, but the trains will keep on moving, which might mean that a train might miss a red signal or something like that on the layout. To me, again, I do not find that very useful. The last one, terminate events. That one I find extremely useful. Basically what it does is it terminates all running events in the CS3. This is very good when something happened, everything is goofed up, you need to get back to a normal state again or a known state. Then you can hit this button and it will actually terminate all running events. Of course, then there will be some hardship in figuring out what actually happened and getting your layout, trains and events and so on back in a known state. I must admit, what I find most useful when I'm actually doing troubleshooting of the automation is actually using the stop button. So if we use the stop button in the CS3, it has two benefits. It will actually stop all the events and they will continue when you release the stop afterwards. Plus, it will actually also power off the track. However, it's no guarantee this will work as intended. As an example, what if I stopped it right before a locomotive or a train actually hits the contact? Then it will not register that a contact is hit, such that whenever I go out of stop mode again, I do not believe it will actually react to it. So it's good. It's good for troubleshooting. I like to use the stop. However, I also make a set of my own events. I like to make my own controls. So the first one I want to look at is the run. If we go back and look at the freight train from last time, remember we actually did a freight run here. The freight run, when we open it, actually turns on the locomotive and then goes into a loop. Now I do this for all my trains on the layout, and then I like to make a run, or an all run as I call it. So the idea with this one here is it first resets the layout. We'll talk about that a little later in this video, and then it will actually call the run for each of the trains. So here we got, if I long press this one here, you will see I got the freight run. The benefit of this is I will actually run or start all my trains at the same time. Now one thing you will notice here is if I look at the all reset here, actually I should just click on this. Let me just, I'm not in edit mode. Let me go in edit mode. If I click on this one here, you see I have a delay. Why is that? Because I do not actually want to start the other trains until the reset is actually complete. So that's why you see the W here on the all reset. So I'm actually waiting for the central station to execute this event, which will reset my automation. Furthermore, if you look at it, there's a delay of 10 seconds here after the reset. So why am I having this delay? Well, because part of the reset is to turn off sound of engines and so on, because that might still be ongoing. So I want to make sure everything is actually properly turned off, the sound has wound down and so on, and the decoders are actually ready. So typically I put in a delay, in this case a delay of 10 seconds. So the first reset here, we wait till the reset is complete, and we wait an extra 10 seconds to make sure that the sound actually is off. Then for the next ones here, you see I got 3 trains I actually want to start here. Each of these we do not have a delay. And why is that? Because as an example, I don't want to wait for the freight train here to actually complete and do its entire loop. I actually want to start them all at the same time. So the freight train run, when I call that, I do not have a tick box in the delay. I just basically call it. So that means the freight train here, you see the Lint and the Intercity will just start up running, and they will do that concurrently. So in that way, I have with my all run actually a way to start running all my trains at the same time. Now the other thing I would like to do is actually make a pause button. So you actually see here on my track diagram, I have some controls over here. I have a pause. So the idea is when I click on this one, you see now it turned yellow. Then I will pause the automation, and then I can unpause it again by clicking on it, and now it turns gray. So how do I do this? Well, first of all, you have to find a good place to pause. Remember, it's not good to pause things if the train is moving. We talked about that before when we talked about the stop events that's built into the Central Station tree. So how do we make sure that the trains are actually stopped such that we can pause? Well, the easiest place or thing to do is to actually place the pause such that it pauses every time where the trains would naturally be stopped anyways. So last time we looked at the freight train moving down here from the main station and moving around the loop up here to the main line 1 just before this signal. In front of this signal, it actually has to stop. In the same fashion, when it was in front of this signal down here, it also was stopped. So that actually means that the train is always stopped before I select the route. So the natural idea is, why not just check if the pause button is pressed just before or as part of the route selection. So if the train is down here waiting for the signal and it's requesting a route, that's at the point in time I would actually pause. All right, so how do we do this? Well, first of all, I go into edit article list. In here in my link 88, I make basically a virtual detection or contact in here. So I got it here. You see the pause. How did I make that? Well, if I make a new one, then you see it pops up here. I just select something that doesn't exist out there in real life as a contact. So in this case, it's bus 3, number 1, module 1, and contact 3, right? So this actually doesn't exist on the layout, so I can just choose this one here. And then normally it would come up as a contact like this. I basically just go over and then I choose the push contact here instead. And then I basically have my pause button. So this is a virtual contact or detection on the S88. What the benefit is here, in truth, I could in the future tinker with some hardware, so this could become a real pause button. But for now, if you see I click on it, it's pause, it's bus 3, it's module 1, and it's contact 2. It's a virtual one, it doesn't exist out there, but I can still use it for pausing inside my Central Station 3. Then I place this pause button over here on my track board. Please go ahead and view the video for how to draw the track diagrams and how to select and drop and everything as well. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. So now I just need to go into my events. Let me just go into edit event. So basically what I want to do is in all my routes, I will add the pause. So I'm going to select one of the routes we actually made from the last time. You recognize this as the main station 1 to ML1 going east. In this route, the first thing we do is check that there actually is a train so I can start the route. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the pause. When you click on the pause, you can see here I wait till the position is gray. Why is that? Because I want it such that when it's yellow, then it's actually paused. So to me, yellow means the button is pushed or activated. So I want to wait till it's actually gray. And I do that by condition delay, because then I get the nice thing here that the event will actually pause here until, or I should say, it will actually wait here until the pause button is selected, and then it will continue on. So that makes it very easy. I do this for all the routes. You see the next route here, there's also a pause for the next routes here. Right, so there's always, after the initial check, there's a pause. By the way, why do I put the pause after the initial check? Well, because there's really no need to execute the event if there's nothing ready to actually select the route. I would consider this an error condition. So I first do the check, is there actually somebody waiting on the correct spot to execute this route, and then I wait for the pause. Now let's try the all run we made before and the pause and see how it actually works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to my run. I'm going to click on that one. You can see it's executing the reset first, and then it's ready to start the 3 runs for the 3 trains. But remember, I put in a 10-second delay, so now all the events are started. Let me go into the freight one. We see the trains are moving now. Okay, so I hit my pause button over here. So now everything is paused. If I go into my freight one here, I should be able to see that it actually stops at the pause, and you can actually see it does that. So this is the next route that the freight train was going to execute, right? So it ran from main station 1 down here, around the loop and up to main line 1. And the next one it wants to execute is from main line 1 over to main station 1. And you can see now it nicely waits for the pause. If we go into the IC as well, we can see that one here is also waiting here. So both my intercity train and my freight train are actually waiting. So let me go back to my freight train here, and then I'm gonna unpause it and see what happens. And you can see the freight train was immediately allowed to drive and continue. And in the same fashion, the intercity, whenever the intersection is clear, will also be allowed to drive. So you can see both trains can actually continue, and in the same fashion I can pause again and use that function. So I really like this form of pause. Now another control I would like to do is stop, but I want the stop to stop the trains such that I can restart it again. So in essence, I would like to be able to stop the automation, shut down the Central Station 3, and then start it up again, and then be able to hit the all run we made before. So how do I do that? Well, first I need to consider I actually need the trains to go back to their home position. So I need my freight train, for example. I defined its home position down here at main station 1 or platform 1 at the main station. So I want it to go back here, and then it can stop, and then I can kind of turn it off. And why do I want to do that? Because then I'm sure that when I hit run the next time and the run is built, with the knowledge that the freight train is here at platform 1, so main station 1, then that can safely run. So I want to be able to, no matter where my trains are, to be able to get them back to home and then basically turn everything off. In addition to that, I would like all the events to actually terminate nicely as well, so that I'm sure that everything actually works fine. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a stop button. So I got it here. That's the stop home here. Exactly as the pause we made before. We see the stop home is just virtual. This bus 3 module 1 actually doesn't exist, and this contact doesn't exist. Remember, the way I get the push button here is normally when you create a contact, it will look like this. I go to the switch contacts, I hit the push, or I select the push here, and then I got my stop home, right? So notice it's a stop home, not stop. So the idea is when I hit this stop home, then all the trains or all the automation will continue until the trains are back at their home spot, and then it will stop. In order to help me out, I created a couple of indicators. You see them over here to the right. So I would like to make sure that each train has actually acknowledged, yes, I'm home, and I'm actually terminated now. So I made a set of indicators over here as well. So how did I make this work? Well, the first thing, if we go into the freight train here group, if we look at the run, so the run first starts up the train, then it enters the loop, and then in the loop, actually what I do is I check whether or not the home button is not pressed, and if it's pressed, I want the event to terminate, right? So if we go look at this one here, oops, I need to go into edit mode. So we go into edit mode. All right. So if we click at how did I make this stop button, so basically I set it for if it's gray, then it's okay to continue. And that actually means that if it's yellow, so if it's yellow, then it will not continue, and then the event will actually stop. So in this fashion, every time I go through the loop, and remember my loop is made such that it starts at the home and then it ends at the home. So at each time in the loop, I can actually cancel it here. In addition to that, I actually made my indicator here. So you see in my loop, first I turn the indicator on, so I'm actually at home. If the stop home now is activated or pushed or yellow, then it would actually stop here and it would end up with the freight home actually being a green. However, if it continues, then I turn it off. So that actually means that if I did not press stop home, then my freight home indicator would briefly turn green and then turn gray. And for the most part in time, you will hardly notice it because it will execute it so fast. Now, what else do I need to think about? Well, if I go out here and I look at it, what if paused was selected and now I hit my stop home? Then I actually don't want it to pause. I actually want all the trains to continue if I hit the stop home. Otherwise, they will never make it home. So the other thing I did was, if we go into the run, you see I made an event here. Basically, the trigger is if somebody, the trigger is the stop home contact. It's a virtual contact, yes, but whenever this one gets pressed, I want to trigger this event, and then I actually want to turn pause off. So that actually means, and you can see it here, if I hit the stop home, then the, of course it will not work now because I'm in edit. So let me just go out of edit mode. So you see it went out of edit events. So I'm going to click the stop home, and now you see the pause actually turns off. So it actually means if I had by accident pressed pause, then when I hit stop home, then it will unpause everything and then continue until it's home. The other benefit I get also is, because I had something I really couldn't figure out, and then I finally got the idea. So if we have the freight run here, you see it turns on the engine sound, it turns on the light, and actually turns off the rear light. Since this is a loop and it continuously runs around the oval, when would I actually turn off the sound? I would actually like to be able to turn off the sound at some point in time. So my first thought was, well, maybe I can do it here after this, it calls the loop macro. Then I could put it in up here because I'm actually waiting. You see, it's got a W. I'm waiting till the loop is done. And when the stop home is pressed, then it would actually terminate the loop here. So maybe I could just put it over here behind. Actually, that did not work. But now, with my indicators, I can do something else. So I made this freight at home event. So this freight at home event actually triggers on my freight home light. Whenever the light turns green, I want to trigger this event. So when I trigger this event, the first thing I check is, did somebody actually press my stop home button? And maybe I should click in here. So you see, I'm not quite sure why it was red. That's actually interesting. But if the stop home is pressed, then I will actually continue here. So that means if nobody pressed the stop home, then it will continue. And so basically what happens is, okay, freight home indicator light goes on, and somebody had pressed the stop home, then I will execute this event, freight turn off. And what is my freight turn off? Well, if I long press, that's basically making sure that the freight train is stopped, the light can be turned off, and then the engine sound can be turned off. So then I solved my problem with when can I actually turn off the light and sound on my freight train. Now let's try the stop home button. As you can see here on the layout, none of the trains are actually home. Especially notice the freight train, which is actually parked over at main line 1, where it actually should be at main station 1. So the home point or home position of the freight train is actually main station 1, where you see the lint actually currently is parked. And here you can see the benefit of the pause again. So I managed to pause everything at the right moment, such that I can show it here on video. And now we can hit the stop home button, and remember when we hit that one, it will automatically unpause, because you can see I have it paused now. So we hit the stop home button, and then you can see the first train to go is the Intercity. We will actually at the same time try and monitor the freight events. So we got that here. All right. And you can see it's stuck here in the loop after it came to ML1, and now it's waiting to get back to MS1. Now what is happening? Now the lint is going home as well. And you see the Intercity is actually at its home position, but if you look at the indicators over here, it's not entirely done. There's probably some powering down of engine and so on that needs to happen. Now the freight train is going home as well. All right, and you see the freight train is home. You see the Intercity home indicator actually went on. So now that's completed and terminated events. Now we're waiting for the freight and the lint. And you see the freight train is home now, and now it's actually turning off the engines. All right, and the lint is home, and you hear the final powering down. So now actually everything is in a known state. I can shut down my Central Station 3 and I can start it up again and safely use the all run. Now the final thing I want to look at is the reset. And the reset is mostly here to get the Central Station in a good state after something bad happened. And I also use it in the all run. So let's go look at it. So we are in the run category. So do remember here in the all run, it's the first one we call here to make sure that everything is in a good state internally in the Central Station 3. Now let's look at the all reset. What does it actually do? So the first thing it does is it turns everything off. So that's the all turn off. If I look at that, what does that actually do? Well, for each of the trains, it actually turns off the train. So freight turn off, Intercity turn off, and lint turn off. If we look at the freight turn off, that's the one we saw before, where it makes sure that the speed is 0, the light is turned off, and the engines are turned off. And the same thing for the other trains. The next one is actually to reset all the signals. So you see signals reset to red. If we go in and look at this one, basically what it does is it just makes sure that all the signals are red. When you're doing troubleshooting or something goes wrong, then you can end up in a situation where everything is kind of weird on the layout. So then it's good just to turn everything off, all the signals to red. It turns a couple of lights off that I will talk about in future videos. It turns the pause off, it turns the stop home off, and then at the end it turns the indicators off here. So if we go back here and look, right now you can, can I make that smaller? Yes. You can see that my stop home is actually turned on and the indicators is on. So if I run the all reset, it will actually reset the indicators. And if we go back and look, all my signals are also red now. So actually now I'm in a relatively safe state. Although what my reset doesn't do is move the trains to the stop home. So if I had been creating my events, something went horribly wrong, I can use the all reset to kind of get into a normal state within the Central Station 3. Now I still need to make sure that my trains are manually moved back to their home position. And then everything is in a well-known state. So that was how to control the layout automation that we made in the Central Station 3. And actually, I really like the run, the pause, and the stop. They're very, very useful. and it makes it easy to both stop your entire automation in a fashion such that we can restart it, but the pause also helps us actually seeing what is going wrong and so on in the layout. One thing I have to warn you about though is when you use the pause and you pause the trains, then you might end up in situations that you normally would not do when your automation is driving. For example, over here where there's a lot of turnouts, I ended up in a situation when I paused that there was many trains waiting to get through that turnout. And that actually meant some issues turned up that I hadn't really considered. And I actually ended up with trains crashing in this intersection over here. Even though I had done what I could to actually prevent this. I actually managed to crash my trains 3 times, even though I was 100% absolutely sure I had done it right. So that's an example of things that can go wrong when you are doing the automation and playing with it. And one of the reasons why you actually have to be patient, and by the way, don't take your most expensive train. Fortunately, no trains got hurt during the filming of this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I really do hope that you will subscribe to this channel. Remember, it's free. And also, when you subscribe, hit the little notification bell so that you'll be notified about upcoming videos. Enjoy!